As we've been discussing all morning, French President Emmanuel Macron has indeed been in South Africa on a state visit. Before he arrived here, he visited Rwanda this week as well, and then admitted his country's role in the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. Let's talk more about that and the strategic role of France in Africa going forward with our expert Charles Sinkala, Dr. Charles Sinkala, who joins us via virtually from Pretoria. Charles, thank you so much for joining us. So much to talk about the importance, the strategic importance of Emmanuel Macron's visit to Africa and indeed South Africa. But let's start with his visit to Rwanda, because that indeed was a very telling moment in relationship between Rwanda and Africa, with the French president finally acknowledging his country's role in the 1994 genocide. And even though he stopped short of officially apologizing, the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, accepting that this was a point where they can move forward and start repairing relationships with France. How significant was that statement from the French president?
Yeah, thank you very much, Michelle, and good morning to your viewers. It is actually, the trajectory of how the world has now changed and evolved, and I think we've got a much better generation than before, improved generation than before, and a lot of people are trying to ask a lot of questions of the past which hasn't been fully rectified or talked about because of the reconciliation was just ended just for the sake of moving forward. But as the geopolitical systems and dynamics start changing on the African continent, more stringent policies has been implemented or in the process of being implemented or agitated to be implemented. You see here in South Africa there's a BEE policies and all those type of things, and this is actually giving a hard time to international companies who depends on the African economy, and as well the future trade of Africa and the viability of the market of the 1.4 billion people and 1.7 billion people in 2023 gives Africa a very lucrative platform for France and any other European or American companies. But again, for them to come here, they can't just come like how they came before. So one of the strategies, I think, it is to reunite their relations, to mend their relations, past relations, especially for former colonizers. And I think his stance of going to Rwanda, President Emmanuel Macron has put that on his agenda, that we must work together in terms of moving forward, in terms of trade. But again, Rwanda had involved itself into that genocide, which it accused France of being involved, and I think he needed to amend that. But no amount of apology, even if we demand a full apology, will bring back the lives which were lost.
Now, the French president is said to want to move France's focus away from just Francophone countries, and like you've alluded to as well, but looking at Africa as a whole. How do you see South Africa fitting into that plan for how Emmanuel Macron wants to see France's relationship with the entire African continent develop?
Yes, South Africa has been a partner for French government for many years in terms of trade and bilateral agreements and relations with the government. They do quite a lot of businesses, and one of the business which I can think of is the garage, Total, which has been exploring oil in Mozambique and selling oil products within the South African space. But I think they need beyond that, But again, South Africa has to look at the benefit of dealing with France in terms of business trade. What are the benefits? Is it possible that the same companies which we have here in South Africa can also leverage into the French territory, like ShopRite, Pick and Pay, and even the emerging companies from black-owned companies? Can they find it easy to integrate within the French territories, or is it only France which wants to come into the South Africa and promising the lucrative jobs which they've always been promising across the Francophone countries? and across the African countries, and all these proceeds of their businesses on the continent, they all go back to French government, without little or without any benefit or little benefit with the African people. This is where we have to think